What's up, everyone? I watched Hell or High Water the other day for the first time, and this happened.
There's supposed to be two of them.
Maybe the town folks got one.
Well, if they did, they got the smart one. This old boy's out of his mind. Why don't you slip up this canyon and tomahawk that son of a bitch?
Now, I know at this point it's probably a little confusing why I even brought that up, but the reason I did is because when that happened, it was so surprising. It was such a quick death for a character that we had gotten to know throughout the entire movie. It was a pretty big part of the movie. He was best friends with one of the main characters, and so we knew this guy, and then he gets taken out like that, and there was no preparation for it. There was no preparing for you for, okay, this guy's gonna die. It was just instant, just he is dead now. And I thought that was insane, and that got me thinking, you know, comic book movies haven't done death too well so far, and we're going to be getting a lot more death in comic book movies because MCU is getting older, and that means more people are going to start getting to the end of their contracts and not necessarily wanting to re-sign up with the MCU, and so we're going to get more characters dying in comic book movies. And so I wanted to talk about how comic book movies could learn from mainstream movies and do death better. Because so far, some comic movies have done some death scenes really well, and others terribly. Because, you know, it's a big cliche in any movie to do the whole holding their head while you're both crying and the person's slowly dying, and they get their last words out right before they die, just right before, or maybe there's like one word they weren't able to get out right before they die, but they got enough out where you can make out what they were saying. And it's just a big cliche at this point in Hollywood, and it's annoying, and comic book movies are not immune to it. And I just don't think we need to see a whole lot of that anymore. It doesn't all need to be quick deaths like Hell or High Water, but I do think a mix could be done well. So yes, anyways, I'm going to be talking about some of the good and some of the bad that I think comic movies have done so far with death. So spoiler warnings, all the comic movies I'm going to be talking about are already on DVD, so if you haven't seen them, then I'm going to say it's your fault, because this is definitely in the spoiler territory, to where once it's on DVD, I believe you can talk about it without giving a specific spoiler warning for it. That is my rule. So if I talk about something and you complain in the comments about it, that's your own fault. It's already on DVD. You obviously didn't care enough about it to see it. Anyways, let's get into it. Unsurprisingly, one of the comic book movies that did a great death scene was The Dark Knight with Rachel's death. That whole sequence was intense and amazingly done, and just everything about it, the score, the directing, the acting, everything was just top notch and just to perfection. I love that scene where you see, it's so intense because you don't know what's gonna happen, and then you see that Dark Knight, Batman himself, breaks down the door, and it's Harvey there. It's like, oh man, does that mean Rachel's gonna die? And then Rachel is mid-sentence and explodes. Mid-sentence, she's like, Harvey, and boom, explodes. She doesn't even get to say what she wanted to say, like they will always do, you know, the cliche Hollywood death, where someone's just sitting there holding them, and they get their last words off. She doesn't even get her last words off. She's trying to tell Harvey something else, but it explodes before she's able to say anything. And I love that. It's very surprising and very quick, and it was done really well. Heck, even this year, Wonder Woman did it pretty well with Steve Trevor's death. I thought that was handled very well. They sort of got the best of both worlds. They got the character that dies gets their last words, but it wasn't while this other person was holding them and they were slowly dying. He goes and he's going to sacrifice himself. So he goes and he tells Wonder Woman his last words. He's like, you know, I gotta do this because I can save today, you can save the world. And so then he goes up in the plane, he sacrifices himself. I thought it was done really well. I thought it was executed really well, and I liked it. And it was a sad death. It sucked for Steve Trevor. It was kind of predictable that he was gonna die, but I liked it, and I thought that death scene was done very well. But these are both pretty good comic book films. Not even all good comic book films do good deaths. Some bad comic book films even do good death. Like, for instance, Thor: The Dark World, which most people consider the worst film in the MCU, I think is a candidate, but I think Iron Man 2 is definitely the worst film in the MCU, at least in my opinion. Anyways, Thor: The Dark World did Frigga's death pretty well. It's actually one of the best scenes in that movie, where Frigga is Thor's mom, and she's defending Jane Foster because the Dark Elves are just descending upon Asgard, and they're making their attack, and it's just Frigga and Jane Foster. And so you have Frigga there defending her. She kicks the crap out of the Dark Elf. She kicks his ass, but then he's got this big old henchman that comes and is able to defeat Frigga, and then he stabs her straight through the back, and then Thor witnesses it all. He comes, he chases them off, but his mom's dead. He doesn't get a final moment to hold her while she says her last words to him. She is just dead. There's nothing that Thor was able to do, and I thought it was done pretty well. I liked it. I was like, oh, man, that was a surprisingly intense moment for the MCU, because most of the MCU is jokes and not very well done deaths or intense moments, but that moment was actually done pretty well, and there's actually consequences for something happening. Like, Thor's mother died. MCU generally doesn't have consequences for pretty much anything, but there was actually some consequences in the movie, and I liked seeing that. Another movie that, well, I actually personally like, but a lot of people don't think is very good, is X-Men Apocalypse, where you have Magneto's family dying. That scene was excellent, and one of, in my opinion, the most emotionally powerful moments in any comic book movie. It also helps that Michael Fassbender gives like an Oscar-worthy performance in that scene. You have where he's there in the woods with his family. He's giving himself over so that way his family can be safe, but then the one dude like gets distracted because Magneto's daughter just starts going all crazy with her mutant powers, which has something to do with nature. He lets the arrow slip, it collaterals the mom and the daughter, and Magneto just runs over there. He runs to him. He's trying to get them to talk to him. He hasn't really accepted their death yet, because he's thinking maybe they're still alive. He's saying their names. He's trying to get them to talk to them. He's just having a breakdown, and then he just gets his calm back, and he kills all of those guys. And it was such an amazing scene. It's so spectacular. Oh my gosh. Just that scene, all the emotions that scene makes you feel while watching it was great. And there was no final moment with Magneto and his family. They're just dead. He gets over there and it's too late. He just tried to give himself over to the police to help save his family. But no, it didn't mean anything. His family got killed, and then he kills all those policemen. And yeah, it was such a great scene. And seeing him there trying to get them to talk to him, but they can't because they're just dead. It's too late. Man, it was done really well. Now, one thing I do agree is that I don't think there needed to be slow motion for when the arrow slips. I didn't think that needed to be slow motion. If that would have been done faster, it maybe would have been more effective, but that doesn't take away too much from the scene. Other scenes sort of like that is Xavier's death in Logan. I thought it was done really well because it's so surprising. You're just seeing like, why is this young Wolverine because at first I thought it was a flashback. I was so confused what was going on during that scene, and then he just stabs Xavier. I was like, what? Wow, that just came out of left field in a good way. But then you get the final moment between Logan and Xavier in the back of the pickup truck, and he's just like, the Sunseeker, Logan, our boat. And I didn't think that was necessary. We didn't need it. I think it would have been better if Xavier was just dead. Granted, that still didn't take much away, but it was kind of the, oh yeah, we get the final sad moment with Xavier. Instead, I think it would have been more effective. It was just he just suddenly got killed out of nowhere. I think that would have been better, but still, that whole part in the back of the pickup truck didn't take away much. But there are also comic book movies that have done terrible death scenes. For instance, Spider-Man 3. At the end of Spider-Man 3 when Harry dies, it's so bad. They're just sitting there holding him while they're both crying, and he's slowly dying, and he just says, Peter, you were always my best friend, and all that, and they have a nice conversation, and then he dies. Or Xavier's death in X-Men 3 when he's getting disintegrated by Jean. He just turns over and looks at Logan, and he also tells like Jean some stuff, and then he dies. He gets to get everything out before he dies, and it's stuff like that. And then you even have Rogue One, a Star Wars movie, where when Chirrut dies, it's done so badly. I love Rogue One. I think it's a good movie. I really enjoy watching that movie, but that Chirrut's death is so bad. You have these death troopers that are supposed to be these elite stormtroopers, and then you have this blind dude just walk through all their gunfire, like not even dodging or anything, just walking through. It's like, okay, it's the whole Force thing, and then he gets blown up, and then Baze comes over and holds him while he's dying, and he gets his last words, and while these death troopers are sitting there, like they should run up and kill them right now, just firing squad them while they're sitting there, or throw a grenade. Instead, they're just like, nah, we'll just sit here and let them have their final moment. It's done so badly. And that being said, not all of the head-hold deaths are bad. There are some good ones. For instance, Return of the Jedi did it very well with Darth Vader, and that was needed, because if Darth Vader instantly died, that wouldn't have worked out well, because we wouldn't have seen the full circle of Anakin coming back. But instead, we got that final redemption scene with him sitting in the hangar with Luke, where he explains that, yeah, I'm back now, but like my time is up, and we get a great scene between him and Luke, and I love that scene, and it was necessary. If he would have died in the throne room, it wouldn't have been good, and it wouldn't have been done as well, and we wouldn't have had the full coming back of Anakin. So that part made sense. And you also have, like, for instance, Logan. I thought Logan's death wasn't done very well, but I thought him sitting there with Laura was done well. I like that scene where it's him and Laura and they have an emotional moment. I thought everything leading up to of him just like fighting with a car door and then getting impaled on a stump was just retarded. I didn't like that. I know a lot of people were fine with it, but I thought it just looked stupid and was such a lame way to end it. But when he's sitting there with Laura, it is emotional, and I thought that was done well. So again, there are ways to do the hand-holding death, like holding their head while they're crying and slowly getting their last words out. There's ways to do that good, but I think we need less of it because we get so much of it in mainstream movies, and I think comic book movies need to be different. I just really think that comic book movies could learn from that scene from Hell or High Water, because it's so quick and fast and just out of nowhere when that guy gets headshotted, when he just takes a bullet to the head. Like, all the emotions hit you at once. You're not prepared for it. You're not hit with this, okay, this is gonna happen, okay, we're ready for it, oh, it happened, it's pretty sad, okay. Like, there's no way to avoid that really in Logan, because everyone was expecting it. It's the last movie for these guys, everyone's expecting them to die. But in other movies, there definitely are ways to avoid it, and so I feel like if you could do some deaths faster, it would definitely be a lot more of a shock and more emotional, because when that happens, all the emotions hit you at once. It's not like you're getting prepared for it. It's not like, okay, I know this person's gonna, oh, that's kind of sad that they died. It's just all of a sudden, bam, it's like, oh man, that guy's dead. Wait, what does this mean for the characters in the movie? Wait, I'm never gonna say, what, it just, all this stuff hits you at once. And that was just, and I think that's a good way to do it, and I'd like to see it done more in comic book movies. So please let me know in the comments below, what are your opinions on this whole comic book movie deaths thing, because I just thought it would be an interesting topic to make a video on after watching Hell or High Water, because I think more movies should definitely try to attempt this, since we're going to be getting a lot more deaths in comic book movies soon, at least in the next like 5 years, I think, because of how long the MCU is going on for. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. On my grind all day, gonna make $1 million selling that someday. You know I'm in the building when I write this way. Put me in the pound when I bite this game, bitch, I'm an animal. Eating these rappers, I swear I'm a cannibal.